The connection today is actor Arthur Kennedy. The film is Air Force. With a generic name like that, it's easy to see how this film got lost in the shuffle of wartime propaganda movies. And if I'm gonna be honest, I kinda forgot this movie existed for the longest time. I mean, with a name like that, you'd expect it to be a B movie from a Poverty Row studio, but surprise, it's a Warner Brothers picture. An A-list picture with a great cast and one of the greatest directors of all time at the helm, Howard Hawks. The film follows the crew of an Air Force bomber, the Marianne, when they're routinely flying from San Francisco to Hawaii. However, it just so happens when they arrive that the Japanese have just finished bombing Pearl Harbor. Disheartened by the incident, the men take on various missions in order to fight for their country. Yeah, it is a propaganda film with some over-the-top patriotic moments, but Hawks brings it down to earth enough times to where modern audiences can watch it without cringing too much. Like I said before, Howard Hawks is one of the greats, and with a significant amount of his filmography being some of the greatest films of all time, it's easy to see how many people have never heard of this one before. Much like All Through the Night, this feels like a Warner Brothers picture. The entire crew is full of contract players that any classic film fan will recognize. John Garfield, John Rigby, Arthur Kennedy, George Tobias, Harry Carey Sr., Charles Drake, and Gig Young. Wait a second. Gig Young was in The Desperate Hours too. I guess he got two connections in one day. There's a good mix of stock footage and models in this film. With the case of films from this time period, filming firefights was not only expensive but hard to pull off with special effects, so they had to resort to using stock footage most of the time. However, this is one of the few films from this era that used actual planes for its action scenes. It's really cool to see some of these planes fly around, and it gives the film a more authentic feel. There are still some instances of stock footage being used, but it's very minimal and only used at specific points in the film. I really do like John Garfield's performance as Wanaki. This is the first film I ever saw him in, and it convinced me to watch more of his work because he truly was a talented actor who passed away way too soon in his career. I will give one warning with this film. Since this was a propaganda film made during the war, there are some things in here that never actually happened in real life, namely some of the quote-unquote secret missions the crew flew. However, if you can get past that, then I'd say give this movie a watch and familiarize yourself with a Howard Hawks and John Garfield film you probably didn't know existed.